Every second, all across the world, individuals are falling in love, but I bet you didn't notice how many conscious and subconscious factors lend themselves to this attachment. An anthropologist from Rutgers University, Helen Fisher, states, "We live for love, we kill for love, we die for love. It's almost stronger than the will to stay alive." It's a basic instinct of humans to find a mate, fall in love, and eventually reproduce, so much so that we see people willing to commit crazy, selfless acts just to find love and keep it. Falling in love is a mixture of physical attractions, similar social and economic backgrounds, as well as chemical reactions of the brain. I'm going to begin first with the physical stimulants that can first attract us to an individual. I bet many of us would not guess that our sense of smell could tell us right off the get-go whether an individual was going to be a promising candidate for us or not. But seeing as reality is, once you find a mate, you're eventually supposed to conceive, it makes sense that evolution has made it so that a man can actually smell fertility within a woman. Jeffrey Kluger from Time magazine discusses a study that was published by the Journal of Evolution and Human Behavior that shows strippers who are ovulating tend to make significantly more money than their coworkers who are not, or on a night when they are not. This means subconsciously the men can smell the fertility, thus find this woman more attractive, thus she goes home with more money. Also, humans maintain a gene known as the major histocompatibility complex. This is connected to your immune system, and it has the influence to reject tissue. So say you have a partner, and both of your major histocompatibility complexes are very similar, it is more likely for the woman's womb to reject that fetus than it is for it to carry it to full term. This being said, Kluger talks about a study that was done at the University of Bern in Switzerland, where they took men in, asked them to wear a shirt for a couple of days, then brought women in, asked them to smell these shirts and decipher which shirt smelled the most attractive to them. In each of these cases, the women picked a shirt from a man that had a major histocompatibility complex that was much different than their own. Thus, subconsciously, they seeked out a partner who had the best reproductive ability with themselves. Now, scent is not the only physical characteristic that can attract individuals to each other. Jennifer Scott discusses a study done in Australia where it's found that women tend to fall in love more with men who have symmetrical faces. This is because a symmetrical face lends itself to a healthy individual, and a healthy individual, of course, has better reproductive ability. Brian Grossman, a psychologist and communications expert, puts it perfectly when he states, "We subconsciously look at their face, think, man, that's a beautiful face, and automatically our next reaction is, man, our children would be beautiful." Men are also seeking subconscious features within women. Jennifer Scott discusses a study that was done at the University of Texas, where it was found that men tend to attract more to women who have a low waist-to-hip ratio. This is because a low waist-to-hip ratio lends itself to an easier childbearing process for a woman. Also, with men, facial hair and chest hair are much more attractive to females. Of course, we know that hair growth is related to testosterone, and as Kluger puts it, testosterone can relate itself to a sign of strength and fertility. So a woman sees a man with facial hair or chest hair, and she's thinking, wow, he probably has very high levels of testosterone, thus he's probably more fertile. As you start to see, a lot of physical attractants are subconscious, and once your subconscious chooses essentially some people for you to court and you to date, and you attach yourselves to them, that's when social and economic background similarities start to come into play, and they do play a pretty crucial role. Political views is going to be the most major. A study was done at Rice University, as reported by Jennifer Scott, that showed couples with similar political views were much more common in today's society than, say, couples with similar personality traits, couples with similar physical attributes, or couples with even similar religious views. And this will start to make sense if you think about politics are a major way of life for our country as well as others. And with this, people have very drastic differing opinions and beliefs, like literally on opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to political views. So Grossman puts it perfectly when he says it's a different value set and it goes to the core. If you have differing political views, you're probably not going to maintain the same core values or the same core beliefs. Thus, you're not going to be able to maintain a long-term lasting relationship in love. Also, adult and childhood experiences lend themselves to helping you find a potential mate. Fishman, Hotinsky, and Chong are authors that discuss a research study done with American and Israeli couples that show men tend to choose women who are more relatable to their mothers, and women tend to choose men who are more relatable to their fathers. I can also attest to this because I hold the utmost respect for my father, and I know that when I look for potential mates or potential significant others, I'm definitely looking for similar characteristics with my dad, because I know that he's always treated my mom wonderfully, and I would like to maintain a relationship just like his. Also, where you actually grew up and where you reside now also have to do with what you find attractive and what cultural views you believe in. Everywhere you go, no matter if it's a different country or a nearby city that's directly beside you, each place is going to have a different set of values, a different set of cultural views that mean the most, that are at the top of the list. Scott puts it perfectly. She says, if you're raised in one place, your idea of attractiveness may be completely different than that of someone raised somewhere else. I know this from firsthand experience. If I go visit my cousins in New York and I discuss what I find attractive, cowboy boots, a southern drawl, baseball cap, scuffed up jeans, they look at me like I'm crazy and I'm totally foreign, because they're looking more for the Rico Suave New Yorker with the amazing blazer on. So it's really understandable if you actually think about it. Though we all differ in what we find attractive, initially it's all instilled in us via childhood, because that's where you learn what values are most important and what the people in your community find attractive. Moving on to the newest research, and probably the most important right now, is going to be the brain chemicals. When you first find yourself attracted to someone and you begin the pursuit, this is going to be testosterone at work. Testosterone is present in both males and females, of course at higher volumes with males, but the testosterone is what's going to make you lust after someone. Now, if you lust after someone and they end up lusting after you as well, and y'all get on the same page, two other chemicals are going to come into play. That's going to be dopamine and serotonin. And these two are literally going to flood your brain. They're going to flood the system. And as Helen Fisher puts it, it creates craving, motivation, goal-oriented behavior, and lastly, ecstasy. The way I see this is it's a craving for the person in their love. It's a motivation to make this work and happen. It's a goal-oriented behavior to make it a long-term commitment. And then, of course, the ecstasy itself is of falling in love. Once all this happens, once these three are at work, testosterone, dopamine, and serotonin, that's when the last one's going to come into play. And this is the most major chemical. It's called oxytocin. And as Kluger puts it, if ever there was a substance to bind, it's oxytocin. Now, oxytocin is also what's responsible when a mother just is holding her child for the first time after birthing. And you see the emotion and the love that she already has for someone that she hasn't experienced in a life with yet. So this oxytocin is also going to come into play whenever you find someone that you've attached to and that you think you've fallen in love with. So once this oxytocin is mixed in with everything, that's when you're going to bond. You're going to make a long-term commitment. You're going to have a long-term lasting love. And you're going to think that that is the one, that is that person. That's when the obsession's going to kick in and you don't want anything else. So as I've communicated to you, physical traits, similar backgrounds and experiences, and chemicals in the brain that we obviously have no control over are all major contributing factors to you falling in love. We have evolved in many ways to subconsciously choose factors of people who are healthy. So that being said, we like to attribute falling in love to our minds and our hearts being in agreement and on the same page with a person of our choice. But realistically, we're just pawns in a world that's automatically claimed by Mother Nature, and the laws that the strong and the healthiest will automatically survive and reproduce. That being said, the entirety of your being is made to find a mate and continue a healthy lineage. So people should stop searching everywhere. They should stop joining so many sites to fall in love. They should take more time to find themselves, and then they'll realize that, hey, all these factors I've discussed will eventually lead me to the best possible mate. and I will then fall in love, and without little or no effort from myself.